Okay. It says we are live. 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 Let me check and make sure. Y'all know I got to make sure the sound. Y'all know I am a one woman show. I am all of the things. I am the producer. I am the sound checker. I am the light person. I am the person that does the script. I am the person that does the editing. Baby, when I tell you I'm the whole show, I am the whole show. Let me make sure I'm still live. Okay, here we go. Listen, listen, listen. Come on in the room, y'all. Look, I'm telling y'all right now, if this live sign falls down again, because it already fell down like 3 times, okay? So if it falls down again, we're going to go ahead and pretend like we don't see it, okay? If it falls down while I'm on this live stream, we are going to pretend like we don't see it, okay? Because it didn't fall down 3 times already. Listen, come on in here, come on in here. I am live. Now, it keeps stopping over here, but hopefully I'm not stopping here. Listen, come on in here. Listen, welcome to Hood Parenting Live. If this is your first time joining me, hello and welcome to the neighborhood, honey. I am Yashika, affectionately known as Fairy Godmother, and I am the everything over here on Hood Parenting up under YouTube. Listen, this is where you come to get your real life live experiences. This is where you come to get those answers to those questions that you don't know where to look. But because when I tell you I done been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and if I didn't do it, I read a book about it because I got the education. Okay. You can Google my education. I'm just saying you could Google it. Okay. I was in the programs. Okay. So you can Google my master's degree, my bachelor's degree. I don't think you could do Google my associates. Okay. But you can Google my school. You can look at me in a graduation book. So I'm just saying my credentials are verified. Okay, let's be clear. My credentials is verified as well as my two DD-214s that I got from the Army. So when I tell you guys that I have the education, the experience, the know-how, all of the things to be able to help you, okay? And my stuff come from the hood, honey. Between the Army and me being raised in Detroit, Michigan, baby, I'm all equipped, okay? And then I'm kind of cute with it too. All right, I'm kind of cute with it too. So listen, when I tell you a triple threat, okay, but look, today, we are talking about my 10-year post-military anniversary. Today, April the 31st. You can't see it, but it's down, excuse me, May 31st. You can't see it, but it's down here. May 31st is my one whole decade that I have been officially retired after serving nearly 25 years in the U.S. Army. And when I tell you that I am all of the things, honey, I am all of the things because it didn't even dawn on me until it dawned on me that today was my anniversary, right? And I had to think about Yashika 10 years ago from the day. Because when I tell you that Yashika 10 years ago from today is not the same Yashika that you see before you, she is not. First of all, I was 43, which that's a big number. But I was entering into adulthood, and I say adulthood because me serving in the military for 25 years, I joined after I left my mother's house. I graduated high school June 11th of 1991. I entered the Army September 11th of 1991. December of that year of 1991, I was married to my first husband. By January of 1992, I was stationed in my first duty assignment. And so I was 18. I didn't know nothing. When I tell you, I mean, I knew what I knew from the city, which was a lot, but in terms of being worldly, in terms of understanding life, everything that I had known was either learned from the Dewey Decimal System, okay, going to the library, so everything I knew was Detroit and Ecorse, Michigan. That's all I knew. Everything I knew was Detroit and Ecorse, Michigan. So when I went into the Army, I mean, there was so many things that I learned. I mean, I remember being in basic training and I thought that I was a pretty smart girl. I went to a very prestigious high school, so I thought I was smart. But when I remember being in basic training and I had people in class with me that were Hispanic, but their skin complexion was mine. And so it was the first time that I had actually seen in real life people who looked like me that spoke like Spanish in different languages. And so I just remember being really intrigued by it, because again, you see it on TV, but no one around me spoke a different language. I'm sure there was kids in my school that spoke a different language, but they were probably exchange students or something like that. So it kind of came with the territory of they were exchanges. Like we knew what was going to happen. But when you see somebody that's brown like you and they speak a whole new language, it's like, oh my God, so it was really amazing. I just remember so many things that I learned in basic training. I wasn't raised to pray before I eat. That wasn't something that my mother or my grandparents instilled in us. And so that was something that I didn't know to do. But them girls got me right in basic training, honey. Them girls, when I tell you them girls got me right in basic training, they say, hold up, Detroit, you eating without praying over your food? I was like, what am I praying for? They was like, well, you praying the person that cooked your food, you're praying for the person, you praying that you hope you don't choke. I mean, it was things that I did not. I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to pray for my food. And I literally to this day still pray over my food. Every meal I eat, I taught my kids the same thing. I mean, when I tell you there were so many lessons that I learned in basic training, they taught me how to roll my hair with paper towel. They taught me they taught me so many things. There were so many girls there from the South. And I just remember, and I think even now talking about it makes me kind of emotional because I remember there was so many things that I learned from them that I didn't know being from the city, because they were more. I know for me, I realized that Southern people were different than city people, right? And I didn't understand it at the time. But of course, going through my life and going through my military service, and I think probably 75% of the people I met in my military career were from the South. Like, I don't think there was too many people that I met was from up north or from the East Coast, or the West Coast. They were like from the South. Every now and then you have your East Coasters, like your New Yorkers or whatever. But for the most part, most of the people that I met in the military was from the South. And so for me, I just really learned to appreciate the people that was from the different states and everything, because they brought so many different things to me that I didn't know. Even when I met people from Florida, I remember looking at them like, you from Florida? Oh my God, it's so pretty there. And the beaches. And they like, okay, all of Florida ain't like that. They was like, we from this area, they from this area. They was like, you looking at the TV. They was like, you looking at Hollywood. And they was like, that is not what Florida look like. Okay. And it's funny because I remember even still when I first got to my first duty assignment, and then they shipped me out to NTC, which was in California. And I remember that being the first time that I saw California. And I remember calling my mother when I got to the Dust Bowl, which is Fort Irwin, California, which is in the middle of the desert in Barstow, California, which is nothing there. Okay. I remember calling my mother and I was on the phone with her. By this time I was 19. I was on the phone with her and I was like, Mama, this is not the California I seen on TV. Okay. I was like, I don't know what they showed us on TV, but the stuff I see right here, this is not the California I seen on TV. Because I'm telling you, when they dropped me off in the middle, first they landed us back. This was back in 1992. I went to NTC March. I had only been in my assignment, my first duty station, 1 or 2 months before they sent us to NTC. And they sent us to NTC in California, and they dropped us off because I was on an advanced party, and they dropped us off at in Las Vegas at the airport, but it was on the military side. And so when we come from around the corner of the airport in the back, I seen all these Vegas lights. Now, mind you, I'm 19. I had never seen Vegas. And then slowly but surely, it was like, look at the lights. So I'm looking at all the lights like, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. And slowly but surely, the lights became a distance. When I tell you, they became in a far, far away distance. I mean, after a while, you didn't see nothing but pitch black, okay? Because we was in the middle of the desert. And NTC, then on top of that, you had to, once you come up on the exit, you had to drive 30 more miles into the mountains. Okay, so I just remember all these things. And so here we are today on May the 31st, 2026. I am 10 years post-military. which means that I am, what's that, 25 and 35? I am 35 years. Is that right? Yeah, because 35 and 18 is 53, and I'm 53. I am 35 years from when I remember all of those first joining the military. And so for me to sit here, I want to first be able to thank God. I mean, because when I tell you that if you are a veteran or if you are a soldier or you whatever, that was one of the fears, when we first retire. I got makeup on my shirt. That when we first retire, it's a fear. It's a fear of figuring things out. It's a fear of if I'm going to live. It's a fear of what do I do? Who am I? It's so many different things that you go through, emotions that no one talks to you about. No one tells you. You go through those, especially when I got out. I got out in 2016. And when I got out of the military, except for my then best friend, there was no one that I knew that was a woman who had got out of the military, who had done 20 plus years and got out. There was no one that I knew, because the people that I knew, even the ones that I knew from the enlisted side, they were all still in. The sergeant majors, the majors, the current, like all these people that I knew that was in my circle, the women, they were still in. And then on top of that, the ones who were still in, majority of them had husbands, right? Majority of them had husbands. They did not have still, they didn't have minor children and all that. By the time I retired out the military in 2026, my oldest son was in his third year of college. My baby boy was only 13. And then I had custody because I had not yet adopted my daughter. And so I had been divorced at that point for 6 years. And so things was still new because I never imagined myself when I joined the Army in 91, or when I had my first son in 95, or even when I had my second son in 2003. I never imagined that when I got out, that I would get out pretty much like, I mean, I got out. I didn't have a husband. I didn't have Uncle Sam. I didn't have any of the things that I thought I needed to be okay, right? Which was a type of support, a type of safety, because I remember going through school. I went to Liberty University to get my master's degree. And I remember when we were going through, we had to go to the intensives, which is when you go to the school and you actually, like, we're in therapy with the other students, and you had to bring a real life situation to the session so that you could really really understand. And I did this back to back. There was like two or three instances I had to do back to back one year, and this was before I retired. So this was around 2014 or so. And I remember that being the issue that I brought to them was, where am I going to live? Because I had no idea at that point. I didn't even know I was going to retire. So yeah, I didn't even know I was going to retire. So this had to be about 2014, because I had come back from deployment in 2013, and then this had to be about 2014. And so I didn't even know I was going to retire. And then on top of that, I didn't know where I was going to retire, because in my mind, right, going back home was something that I couldn't do for so many different reasons. I couldn't go back to Detroit. And then on top of that, I wasn't married. And then my family was all like, most of my family is in Michigan. So it's like, where am I going to retire? Where am I going to go? So that was a real concern for me. And I did not realize it was a concern until I went to my intensive and I started talking about it. And then it started making me emotional, because I was like, where do I fit in this world? And I remember thinking about that. I remember thinking, I don't fit in back home. And I knew I didn't fit in back home because at this point I had been gone for 25 years. And I knew that every time I would go back home to my hometown and around people that I knew, I always would feel like I didn't fit in there. Right. So I knew that wasn't an option for me, although I had my mother, my brother, but I still knew that I didn't feel connected to Detroit and all that. Right. And so I knew I couldn't go back there. So it was like, okay, where am I going to go? And the Army had stationed me here in Virginia. And I remember when I was talking to my then husband, when we were trying to determine where we were going to retire, because at this point, he and I both were coming up on our, I don't know, we were probably at about 15, 16 years apiece when we were talking about places that we may consider as retirement places. And I remember telling him, because the Army had sent me here because my headquarters is here, being a logistics, here in the Virginia area. And I remember telling him that I wanted to live in Virginia. And he was opposed to that. He was like, no, I don't want to live in Virginia. And so his thing was, South, because he was from the South. So he was like, Texas, we can go there. I said, well, Texas is an option because we lived in Texas, and then we had property in Texas. So Texas was an option. But that's why we were married. So when I became single or divorced, and here it was now, I was walking away from the military because I had my daughter, I had my mom, I had so much going on that I knew that I could not stay. I knew that I could not stay any more time. I knew that I had gave the Army everything that I could give them because my life was headed in the direction that I did not know. Here I was now with a baby. I was what they call a single mom now, or was defined as a single mom because I was no longer married. And then on top of that, now I had a baby girl who she did not have a father because she was my little cousin. So I'm legit a single parent. I am legit by all definitions a single parent. And all I could think about is I don't know where the military is going to send me next if I leave this area. But what I do know is I have no control over it. So the best thing I can do for me and my family at the time was to retire. And so in 2024, in April, I made the decision that I was going to retire. And so I dropped not 2024, but in 2015, I made the decision I was going to retire. And so you're allowed to put your paperwork out in 12 months out. So I dropped my paperwork in May to retire in 2016 after almost 25 years. And, and it's just one of those things where I did not know what I was going to be doing. I did not know how I was going to get there. All I knew is that I had to keep going. That's all I knew. And the thing that really got me the most was I didn't have anybody to turn to talk to, because a lot of, like, even the books that was written, the books that had been written for military who transition were people who transitioned out into civilian life. They were people who had either got out midway or didn't do the 20 years or whatever, so they were still young enough, or they were white. They weren't colored in no kind of way. They weren't minorities in any kind of way. And 90%, 99.99% of those people were males. And so there was no book that I can buy anywhere that can help me navigate my transition from the Army. And I just remember, they give you classes, they give you all these things, but I was like, Yashika, what the hell? And so I remember me not knowing anything about anything. I remember the first year, having what people would deem as like a nervous breakdown. I remember that. It was a lot. It was a lot that first year or so, because when I tell you I hit the ground running in 2016, I was still a licensed beautician. So I started about 3 or 4 months after I retired. I got my house settled down, bought my house, got it unpacked, and then I started working as a beautician, and then, kind of went from there. And so when those things didn't pan out, and when what I thought I was going to do didn't pan out, I was all over the place. I was just all over the place because I knew that I made enough money to take care of me and my family. Like I make good money. I make freaking good money. The amount of money I make, people don't even make working 40 hours a week. And I do this before I even leave the house. So that wasn't the issue, but I knew that I had to take care of more than just me and mine. If it was just me and my household, then I knew that I would be good. But I knew that it wasn't just me that I had to see about. Right. I knew it wasn't just me. I knew that I had to take care and see about other people. And so because of that, I was going to need more, but I just didn't know what I was going to do, didn't know how I was going to do it. So I wrote a book. I wrote this book in 2017, 2018. It's called The Realization of Irrelevance, Finding Your You After the Military. And when I tell you that I did not know that this book was literally the roadmap to the life that I had lived in the Army, outside the Army, and whatever. And this book really, and it's a workbook now that I will have published. Probably it hasn't been published yet, but it's completed. And when I tell you that this book, The Realization of Irrelevance, Finding You After the Military, because I really didn't realize my relevance until I got out of the military. Because one thing about the military is it teaches you things that, like, it helps you with your identity, even if you don't know who you are. And so for me, my lack of identity came from not having a father. right? And I think people don't talk about that enough. But when you are a kid that's missing a parent or your parents or someone that you supposed to have in your life, right? It makes you question who you are because you don't know what you're good at, you don't know what you're bad at, so you just tend to do a lot of things. And so for me, that's how I ended up getting so many degrees, so many certifications, so many I do so many things simply because I did not know what I was going to be good at, and I didn't know what interests me. And so because I didn't know, because I felt like part of me knowing that was if I knew my father, because you know how some people they follow their parents' footsteps in terms of what they do in life. For me, it was like, well, how do I know if I'm not a genius, or how do I know if I'm not a musician in disguise, or how do I know if I'm not like how do I not? I don't know these things about myself because I don't know my father. And if I knew my father, then I can better understand who I was, right? That's how it made sense to me. Now, is that true? Probably not, right? But for me, in my mind of growing up as a kid, I ended up doing so many things. So the military was just one of the things that I did. And I did not know that this book it had, yeah, I didn't realize that it would shape so many things. And it's amazing how you do something and you go back and you be like, I said that. And so sometimes when I pick up this book and when I read it and I go back and I think about this thing in there, I have this thing called Get Right. So it's Get Right, and the right is spelled R to the second power ITE, and it stands for relevant, resiliency, intuitiveness, tenacity, and empowerment. And for you to get those things, get relevant, get resilient, get intuitive, get the tenacity that you need in order to get to the next step and be empowered. And I just remember like, oh my God. And it was just I didn't even know that I had wrote something that was going to help me in so many ways, even down the line. And it's been some time. And so this book right here, you can buy this book because it's not just it's not about military. It's literally me just saying how I found myself out of the military. But I don't talk much about the military. I use some of the things that the military taught me and some of the examples and how I actually related to my everyday life. So this is how this book played in my life, because it was like I really do these things. Like I talked about creating a schedule. I talked about, getting yourself in places, like the things that I wrote in this book. I didn't realize how much they play a role in my life now and back then, and even while I was in the military and before. And so I appreciate my my old self for looking out for my future self when I wrote this book. And so the things that I know for a fact, that I have learned in these 10 years that I've been retired. And I was thinking about this and I was like, what are my top 5 things out of all the things that I've learned in the military? And I've learned a lot of things in the civilian sector for these last 10 years. Um, I have done a lot of things. These are the 3 books that I've written. Um, this one and then these 2 right here, I've co-authored those, and this was an individual. I mean, I've done some amazing things. Okay, when I tell you I've done some amazing things these 10 years, I've done some amazing things. But the lessons that I've learned, because remember, last time I was a civilian, I was 18, and people feel like, well, that's no different. No, we are a world within a world. Like everything about the military is different than the civilian sector. Like I was thinking about this the other day before I start on my 5. I was thinking about this the other day. And I talked about this on one of my lives. One of the things that I do is I schedule all my health appointments around my birthday, right? And so between February and April, I went to the doctor, went to optometry, go wherever I need to go to make sure that my health records are up to date, right? And I'll do it around my birthday so that way I can keep track of it. Because if not, I'm like, I forget. I'll be like, well, did I go to the doctor this year? Did I go check this out this year? And the reason why I feel like I had to create some type of ritual for myself or some type of timeline was because the military holds you accountable for this. Like, in other words, if you miss your doctor's appointments, or if you haven't got your shots are now recent, if you're if you getting different type of shots, or if you getting a inject the what is it, the I forget the other shot, the flu shot, like those type of things. If those things are just up to date, if you are over a certain age and you haven't gotten a physical yet, like certain things, if you have not done, the military will put your name up on a board. Okay, so my last rank was a captain. They be like Captain Foster because I was good for not taking. I was good. I did not take the flu shot. I was good for it. I ran away from the flu shot. So they would say, Captain Foster, you do the flu shot. I'd be like, So if I wasn't in that meeting, or if that commander was in the meeting, they would be like, hey, tell Captain Foster she go do a flu shot. So what I'm saying to you is they help you keep count of all this, right? They instill physical fitness into us. They instill, family time, made sure you had time for family time. Like they made sure that you check the block of being a 360 soldier. And check out my video called the 360 woman concept, because I take that same concept that the Army taught me and I use it into being an adult and being a woman, because you can't just look at one thing and say, okay, I'm good over here and this over here is jacked up, because eventually you're going to start burning the candle with both ends, and you guys know how that goes. So I'll talk about that in that video. But the Army teaches us to be a little bit of everything. So for me, I had to develop systems that I can use outside of the military, right? And so those are the kind of things I talk about in my book, and just the things that I learned that I know that I'm like, okay, I need these things in my life, because these things are going to keep me regulated. These things are going to keep me making sure I get up and go to the gym every day, even when I don't feel good, unless I can't go for whatever reason, because there may be a day that I can't go, right? There may be a day in my life where I can't go, and I'm going to wish that I can go. I'm going to wish that I had to use those opportunities to get up and go. And so that's how I view my life. Instead of me looking at it where I should have done these things, I try to keep myself together in all areas. Because why? You got to, because if not, you'll start letting this area right here go. And then before you know it, because gym is not only about my body being physically fit, but it's also about this up here, right? And it also gives me time to interact with a different group of people. It's so many things that the gym does for me that I can't go to PT. So this allows me to have this type of interaction and to keep myself together that the Army trained me on. And so I appreciate that. And so the things that I've learned over this time that I have been a civilian, and again, I was 18 when I was a civilian, and it makes a difference because the world don't see things the way we do in the military. We are a world within a world, and it's just that simple. And so I had a lot of reality checks when I got out. And one of the things that I did do when I retired was I went and got certified, because civilians, I went and got certified to be a carrier. Yeah, I did. Now understand that I am an expert shooter. I am expert. I am an expert at the range. I am expert at the range. Okay. And so because why? Because people don't consider you the same way in the civilian sector. Because I'm not saying that I didn't deal with the civilians when I was in the military, but what I do know is I've had several people jump out their cars at me in the civilian world. And it's just like, well, y'all just don't have no regard for anything, right? And so for me, so those isms that I have because of the military, I have to make sure that I keep myself together. And so the things that I've learned, number 5, and I'm going to go from 5 to 1. Number 5, people are not authentic. That's what I've learned in the civilian sector since I've been a civilian. People are not authentic. They perform authenticity and they perform loyalty, which for me, because see, in the military, we come from a world where I need to trust you. We got to have teamwork. I got to be able to look at you and say, okay, will this person have my back if we're in a foxhole together? And I got to be able to trust you. But I realized that in being a civilian for these last 10 years, that ain't something that people do in the civilian sector. They're not as trustworthy. Now, I'm not saying that the soldiers are honest people. Lord knows they're not, because I've served with everybody you could think of. When I tell you that in my military career, I have served with every type of criminal that is in the civilian sector. Because remember, they're the same people in the civilian sector in the military. They don't know what they're going to do until they do it. So I have served with people who have became child predators. Okay, they were my first line supervisors, later went to prison for doing gross things. Okay. I have served with people who have unalived other people. Literally. Okay. Be like, dang, so and so did that. You be like, what? Sorry, so and so did that. I have served with those people. I have served with people who have sold drugs. I have served with people who listen, I have served with everybody that is in the civilian sector. People who smoke drugs, sold drugs. And when I'm talking about, I ain't just talking about marijuana. I'm talking about they smoke some drugs, baby. Baby, they was getting lit. Okay. They doing all of the things. Okay. So all the people, so it's not like I'm just serving with people who are just these straight narrow people. No. But there are times in your lives where you have to look at people and say, hey, can I trust you? Hey, are you being authentic? And I recognize, whether it's in my entrepreneur journey, the civilian sector, this is a dog eat dog world. This is a doggy dog world. Is the military like that? Yes. But because there's so many things that you have to go through, one person, it's hard for one person to keep their thumb because you're not going to be up under that one person your whole career, right? I'm not saying they can't have an impact on you. We can't eat this thing all day long. Other words, if you serve long enough in the military, you're not going to be up under one person your whole career. So as long as you do what you're supposed to do, you're going to eventually get off up under that person. You may redeem yourself. I know people that have gotten busted all the way down and then ended up making sergeant major. Okay. So what I'm saying to you is there's still ways. But in the civilian sector, listen, people, it's like, do you have my back? You don't, huh? And so you have to have your own back. When I tell you that the civilian sector teaches me to have my own back more than anything, I cannot rely on anybody but myself. And that is one of those things where it's like, I thought about that. I said, if I had to call somebody, who would I call? Right. And for anything. Okay. Now I know I have neighbors, um, but it would have to be something really serious for me to call a neighbor. But in the military, we have this thing where if you come up missing, like say you don't come to work for a day, somebody gonna come to your house looking for you. Somebody gonna call. If you don't answer your phone, they're gonna come to your house looking for you. In the civilian sector, right? If they don't see my car move for a couple of days, nobody's gonna come knock on my door. And so that's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, because why people are in their own worlds and people don't really give a crap about you, not really. They really don't. They really don't. People don't really care about crap about you, not really. And it's just that simple. It's just that simple. Every now and then you get lucky and you find a person or two that you can hold on to and you are with them for life. And listen, you need those people. Thank God for those people. Right. And I'm so glad that I have people like that in my life because everybody else, baby, no, people are not authentic. They pretend to be authentic. And so that's my number 5 that I've discovered since I've been civilian. Number 4, you got to know who you are in this world. In this civilian world, you got to know exactly who you are. Because if you do not know who you are, they will tell you who you are. They have no problem with projecting their feelings over on you. They have no problems with projecting how they view themselves on you, trying to belittle you, trying to minimize you. And then people will try to take what you have and make it their own. Right. And I mean, and that's just the way it is. So if you don't know who you are, I mean, the things that I've heard people say, you ain't supposed to do. I mean, the things that I heard people say, people want to put you in a box. Like if you do certain things, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe. For example, I remember I was dating this guy and he told me that like cursing. I was like, boy, what? He was like, well, a woman like you shouldn't curse. I said, well, you probably, that's your opinion. And I'm not going to be out here just being a sailor. But at the same time, how dare you? Why do you get to put how you feel about how I should run my life onto me? That's your opinion. Get you a girl that don't curse. That's what you do because I will cuss you out in a minute. Okay. And I use my words. I do. I know how to use my words very well. But for me, and that's just something small, but you'll be amazed of the things that I found. Like people with, and they did it in the military too. I mean, people did like that in the military too. But for the most part, though, if you don't know who you are, people will project all their things over on you. Now, in the military, we have a whole bunch of rules and regulations, and I'm not saying that it's fair by no means. Am I saying that the military is fair? But what I will say is that there's a lot of things in place to police people up when they're not being the way they're supposed to be. There are a lot of things, and eventually eventually things will happen, right? So for me, know who you are in this world, because if not, people ain't got no listen. People don't have a problem with telling you who they think you are. When I tell you people don't have a problem with telling you who they think you are, number three, and that was my number four. Number three, life is what you make it, and it's just that simple. Life is what you make it. And especially in this big old world of being a civilian. And that's the beautiful thing about being a civilian. One thing about the Army, everything that we do, we got to ask permission. If I want to go out of the country, I got to ask permission. If I want to get a tattoo somewhere that's explodes somewhere, there's like I gotta ask permission, or I gotta be reprimanded if I do something. Like everything we do, I want to go see my mom, I gotta ask permission. Like I want to go, I want to do something to myself, I gotta ask permission. Like all the things that we do, we got to ask permission. In the civilian world, as long as you abide by the rules, the common rules, right? And the 10 Commandments and things like that, and spiritually, you're good. So what I'm saying is that there are so many ways that you can move around this world. And so life is what you make it. And I realize that in the civilian world that there are a lot of people that's just out here just ticking life away. And I'm just like, so because in my mind, and I guess I feel this way, I feel like I was 25 years behind everybody else when it comes to my civilian life, right? Because I feel like while y'all was doing all of the things, I was straight and narrow. Okay, I was straight and narrow. So now when it comes to me exploring and me traveling and me doing things and me trying to figure out, well maybe I want to be this or maybe I want to do this, like I get to do these things and nobody can tell me anything differently. And so life is what I make it. If I want peace, because sometimes in the military, you get stationed somewhere you don't want to be, a long way away from your family, right? Or you working for somebody you don't want to work for, or you in a job you don't want to be in. In the civilian sector, once you get off work, you got your whole rest of your day, depending on your job. In the military, it's not like that. It's not like that. Some days you'll be at work 24 hours. Some days you wake up every day to the same people for a year. Why? Because you deployed together. Or you wake up every day to the same people for 4 months. Why? Because y'all in the field together. Or y'all in school together. And it's like, who are these people? And you have to get used to those people. And it's just that simple. And whatever these people tell you what you can do is what you do. If they say we're doing this today, that's what you're doing. But in the civilian world, life is what you make it. If you want to be happy, you choose your happiness. If you want peace, you choose your peace. I don't know what that look like for you. You got to figure that out for yourself. But the beautiful thing about the civilian sector is that you get to figure out for yourself. You get to go out here and explore. But I noticed that there's a lot of people that's just still living in this box. You know, that part I don't understand. But I know that life is what you make it. So if you want peace and happiness, you got to go out there and create it for yourself, honey. Because nobody is going to bring it to you. Nobody is going to deliver it to you. And speaking of delivering, my number two, you got to take what you want in this life. That's what I recognized. I knew that in the military, and I know that in the civilian sector. And I know that this is something that I mentioned somewhere in my book. You got to take what you want in this life. And what I mean by that is you can't do wrong by it. If you know that you deserve certain things and you work for it, you got to go and get those things, because they ain't nobody going to say, good job, I'm going to promote you now. I'm going to promote you because you did a good job on that. Even in your regular job, they ain't going to do that. They're not going to tell you they're not going to give you permission to be who you want to be. Nobody is going to give you permission to be who you want to be and do what you want to do. Nobody. Because why? The, no, they're not going to let you outshine, and they don't give you permission to do anything. And when I realized that the most is when I became an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, I realized that when I hired coaches, those coaches in when you talking about, like, the digital space, like coaching, like business coaches and things like that, those coaches are not going to give you info. I don't care how much money you pay them. They are not going to give you all the things you need in order to be successful. You got to pull from what you learn from everywhere else. Because see, they're not going to tell you what you need to know to fix all your problems or to help you with all your issues when it comes to your entrepreneurial journey. Why? Because they need you to keep coming back so they can keep telling you, well, see, you need this. I can help you do that. That's why sometimes they'll say, hey, what is something y'all think is implemented? They'll ask questions because why? They need to know what you need to know so that they can create something. So what I'm telling you is that you ain't got time for all that. So go and take what you want. Work hard, go take what you want, because nobody has the answers. Nobody has the answers to your life like you do. I don't care who you hire, a therapist, a counselor, a coach, a life coach. Nobody has the answers to your life like you do. And for you to know what works for you or what's going to be best for you, you have to be the one that goes out there and do it. And it's just that simple. You're going to fail once, you're going to fail twice. Hell, you might even fail 309 times. You might, you might, you might. But guess what? One day you're going to get up and you're going to succeed. And it's just that simple. So nobody can tell you, well, if you do this now, granted, people can give you a little piece of advice to do a little nick here, a little tweak there, something like that. But you are the special sauce to everything that you want to do in this life. Nobody else. You are the special sauce. So at the end of the day, you got to go out here and take what you want, because listen, nobody's going to give it to you. And you got to pursue it aggressively and intentionally, because you ain't got no time to waste, and you cannot order it on Amazon. You can't order it nowhere. Okay. And my number one thing that I have learned, and I think that when I made the decision as an 18-year-old girl to join the army, I was the only girl that I knew that did it. I was the only girl that I knew that did it. I was the only girl that I knew that did it, that joined the military. This thing says I'm literally just a girl. I was the only one that I knew that did it. And I was the only woman that I knew that was getting out in the situation that I was in, being a single woman, and a lot of things was going on. And so people were telling me, you don't think you should stay in? And the thing about it is I could have stayed in. I was up for promotion. But I knew that that promotion was going to come with a lot of other things that I was not in a position, because of the family that I had, my mother, my three children now. And then on top of that, I didn't want to do it. Like, I literally didn't want to give the army all of me. And I knew that if I had a went to one more duty station, that I probably would have broke, because I had been through too much at that point, through the army, through the military, through my life, and in my personal life. And I knew that if I had moved one more time, I probably would have broke. And so I had to make the decision for myself to walk away. And it was very scary. And so my number one point that I say to you that I've learned, and I think I even had it in the military, coming out of the military, in the civilian world, everything you do, you have to do it scared. In other words, do it scared. Most things you do in this life, you're going to have to do it scared. It's just that simple. You're going to have to do it scared. And I feel that a lot of people don't take enough risks in this life when it comes to what they want. It's like they settle, right? It's like they settle, right? No matter what you do in this world, no matter who you consult with, no matter what, nobody has all the answers. Nobody is going to give you the green light. Nobody's going to give you permission. Nobody's going to give you the step by step, the turn by turn, the left, right, left, right. Nobody's going to give you any of those things. They can guide you. They can mentor you. They can do all the things that they can. But at the end of the day, you got to do it. And sometimes that means you got to do it scared. And it's just that simple. Mm-hmm. Sometimes in this life, what I recognize in this civilian life is that sometimes you got to sit with yourself. You got to sit with yourself to find the answers. And sitting with yourself to find the answers means that you got to listen to all of the things. You got to see all of the things. You cannot put yourself in a box and put yourself into limitations. Right? Because even when I think about other people that do that to people, like try to put them in a box, like I said earlier, sometimes I notice that people do that to themselves. They put themselves in a box. Well, see, I can't do that because, or no, I better not do that because, or no, I can't wear that because, or no, I shouldn't because. This life is what you make it. You only got one shot at this thing called life. I feel as though I've lived 7 lives. However, there's no proof. And so you only got one shot at this thing called life. And when I'm in my 80s and I transition, I want to know that I've done all of the things, all of the things. And when I think about this life as a civilian, all I know is that the sky's the limit. Like, I'm just getting started. When I tell you, because I have never been in such a place in my life where I'm like, I'm so grateful. When I tell you I am grateful for the trials, the tribulations, I mean, I'm grateful for, like, you can't even imagine. I mean, if I was to sit here and tell you the things that I've been through, because everybody has a story, right? Everybody has a story. I'm just lucky that I don't look like what I've been through, honey. That's all. Because everybody has a story. But what I do know is that these 10 years, I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, and if, I mean, I could remember those first couple of years, they were tough. And I think COVID really, 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 really done me good when we got into COVID. So at that point, I was about 4 years post military. And I really feel like that's when things started to change because why I had to sit with myself. There was no distractions. There was no more running. There was no more doing any of those things. And so all of the things that I had been trying to understand or figure out or trying to make light of or didn't, I had to sit with those things. And I think that that is a lesson that I wish that I had learned earlier because I was always sticking and moving, always trying to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Because sometimes we think in our mind that even though we're going through things, we feel like as long as we're going over here, like you graduate from college, you get your this, you do that, you lose that, you feel like all because you're doing those things, you're still progressing. But again, eventually, if the mind ain't right, although you're making the money over here, or if the family is unstable, although the career is good over here, eventually you start burning the candles on both ends, and you already know how that goes. And so for me, that was pretty much it. And so there was no rest period. There was no rest period from the time I was 18 until I was about 47, 45. There was no rest period, right? And so for these 10 years, I'm so grateful for these 10 years. And I cannot wait to see what the next 10, 20, 30 years brings me. Because if the things that I've learned in these 10 years, especially the part where you do it scared and you have to take what you want, like if you don't take nothing else from what I'm saying to you, take those things, do it scared, and you have to take what you want. And you have to know who you are in this world because if you don't, they'll tell you. And I feel that this is the best advice I can give anybody. And these are the things that I've learned, that I really, really learned. Because see, in the military, a lot of who you are, your identity is kind of like put to the side, right? At least while you at work. Okay? At least while you at work. All right. But they say you're a soldier 24/7, and you are. So it's real hard to just really unwind when you know you on call or you could be back at work or it ain't even a 12-hour difference between the time you left work and when you got to be back at work, honey. Trust me, it ain't even 12 hours. I leave work sometimes 7, 8 o'clock at night. I'm back at work 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Barely 8 hours. Barely 8 hours. Enough for me to eat, take a shower, and go to bed and then get up and do it all over again. So that was the life. And I'm so thankful to sit here after 10 years and be able to talk about it and appreciate it because the military kept me. The military taught me, and I'm so glad that those things that I've learned were able to hold me to where I'm at now because I needed those standards in my life. I needed those people to teach me how to pray before I eat my food, right? I needed those people how to teach me how to roll my hair or to see that there were so many different people in the world. I needed those things. And so I am truly grateful. And I am truly grateful for where I am in this life right now. Please understand I'm grateful. So, listen, this is my 10-year post military anniversary. 10 years that I have been a civilian and retired. Oh my God. That's like a whole lifetime ago. Okay. That was like literally a whole lifetime ago. Listen, this has been amazing. And I hope that you have learned something from this. Okay. And if this is your first time coming by this station here on this channel here on YouTube, hello, 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 and welcome to the neighborhood. I'm Yashika, if you don't know, and I'm your fairy godmother. And if you would be so kind, go ahead and join the neighborhood. Find you a house somewhere on the block, okay? And buy real estate. Go ahead and push that subscribe button, buy real estate, and turn on your notifications so when I go live or upload a video, you'll be the first to know. And are y'all following my vlogging until I get monetized? Listen, I'm looking at my YouTube right now. I am at 883 subscribers. Okay. I don't have enough watch hours, but I need to get my subscribers to 1,000. All right. I need to get my subscribers to 1,000. So make sure you share this video. Make sure you share my channel to anybody who you think that might want to or need to hear anything that I'm talking about. Listen, I am all of the things. And if you have any questions or if there's something you want me to talk about, please leave your comment down below and I will be sure to address it and answer your questions. And I might even do a video to answer your question. All right, you guys, have a great rest of your week. And I will see you guys same time, same place next Sunday right here on Hood Parenting on YouTube. And that is at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, catch you guys in the next video. Bye.